Wow.
This week on Barbell Shrugged, we talk about...
Right.
We're going to get hate mail.
Yeah.
it was all him.
Yeah. We swear. We swear. Barbell Shrugged is brought to you by you. To learn more about how you can support the show, go to barbellshrugged.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Chris Moore, and we got CTP behind the camera. We're in Las Vegas, Sin City. Maybe doing some sinful things. Maybe later tonight.
Yes, later tonight.
We're at the NPFL Combine, and we have swooped up Mr. Steve Platek. I was about to be like Steve.
Steve Platek.
Steve Platek. Power Athlete Radio. And just give us a background, because you actually fascinated me when I first met you. I was like, all right, he's associated with CrossFit football. He likes to lift heavy things,
which we saw yesterday.
He looks like he could be a big dumb athlete. But then I found out you're also a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I got my PhD at State University of New York at Albany, like a decade and a half ago. So I'm a neuroscience professor, and got interested in CrossFit. Started a garage gym. That garage gym evolved into CrossFit Gwinnett, which is, I guess, like a real gym.
How long ago did you start your box?
About 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I was a biology professor in England at the University of Liverpool for about 3 years.
Oh,
when I moved back to Atlanta, got interested in sort of this functional fitness thing. I actually had hurt my back deadlifting, of all things, and so one of my buddies said,
so you were training before?
Yeah, I was training just like Gold's Gym type stuff, and
Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah,
magazine workouts.
Yeah, gun show stuff.
Hell yeah.
And hurt my back deadlifting, like something dumb like 275, and came back and my buddy was like, try this CrossFit thing. It's all about body weight movement. And so at CrossFit.com, what happens is once in a while they put up a 1RM, and 1RM deadlift came up, and I pulled something like 435, and the rest was history after that. I affiliated my garage. And after CrossFit joined with Reebok, I was actually in my office at the college, and my cell phone rang, and some dude who I still don't know who it is. If you're out there, ring me now. Called me. He's like, dude, I'm at your gym. Where are you? And I was like, you're at my gym? And he's like, yeah, I'm banging on the garage door. I was like, oh, you're at my fucking house, dude. I was like, so apparently what happened was Reebok put up a thing where you could put in a zip code. Folks could find your gym. So at that point, I had a 2-year-old, and my wife at the time, we're divorced now. I basically said, I need to get out of here. So I partnered up with Caleb Williams. He's a 69-kilo American national champion.
Great weightlifter.
Yeah,
indeed.
He's a straight baller. And we moved up to Beaufort, Georgia. So CrossFit Gwinnett is in like a real facility now, and been training this way ever since. So
I got a buddy who coaches Gwinnett swimming.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
I didn't even realize it. You said it earlier, and then now you're saying it on the microphone, and I go, hey, that's where Lucas coaches swimming.
That's cool. Yeah, we just picked up
Maybe you should come train with you guys.
Swim Atlanta. Swim Atlanta is a big
Could
thing.
be,
We're coaching some of their
really?
middle schoolers. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And what's your association with Power Athlete Radio?
So I followed CrossFit football for a long time because it's basically awesome, and I needed a strength and conditioning program. And the guys on there used to make fun of me because when I initially started talking to Greg Glassman, he started talking about how everything is variation, and so you need to track that. So what you ate that day, what time you worked out, what the weather was, and so I used to post on there all my results on CrossFit football, and then I post things like what I ate before, what I ate after, and then the Power Athlete crew makes fun of me because I used to post the weather, the temperature, and the humidity. And
well, there you go. There's a scientist in you.
Yeah, so that's it. I was just straight track. I have stacks of workout journals that are just data. But like that stuff
you're a
affects
data
you.
collector. I mean, as a scientist, you collect data and then you have to analyze it.
That's what I
Do
do.
you ever break out the statistical tools or any kind of multivariate analyses to get really, really geeky with something? Have you ever tried? I know maybe it's not necessary, but
I did actually. So I had an undergraduate student at my college. I teach at Georgia Gwinnett College, which is a small teaching college.
Undergraduate students / bitches. No, I'm just kidding.
My girlfriend's right there too. Actually, she used to be a student. And
this interview's got more spicy.
So we analyzed 6 months of CrossFit.com results, and what I had the student do was track common usernames, and we tracked progress in Fran, Total, 2 other workouts, and we didn't publish that in any scientific journal. We published it in the CrossFit Journal, and essentially what you get variability around the mean, but not surprisingly, people get better, right? People get fitter. It's like data driven, independent of anything like nutrition or time of day or humidity. People get better when they train these things. Even if the workout comes up once every 4 months, they get better. So we did a little bit of data. I'm not an exercise science or physiologist by trade. I'm a neuroscientist. The exercise thing is just fun for me. It's a kind of hobby type thing.
Yeah.
So.
How'd you get pulled into Power Athlete?
Oh
video
yeah,
thing,
so Power Athlete. So I was on CrossFitFootball.com and really digging their stuff. And so I posted on there. I said, "You guys need a podcast." And this guy Denny Kravitz, we call him Big Denny K. He's from Chicago. He messaged me and was like, "Dude, we need to do this." So we contacted Luke Summers at Power Athlete or CrossFit Football, and said, "Dude, can we do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Well, obviously he didn't check with John, because we did our first podcast, which was just us talking about Power Athlete stuff.
Yeah.
And literally within 2 hours, Denny and I got emails from John saying, expect legal documentation from CrossFit Football, CrossFit.com, PowerAthlete.com. Thanks, John Wellborn. I about shit my pants.
Oh, God.
And then 2 hours later, Luke cleared it all up. And little miscommunication there on the first episode of Power Athlete Radio. Since then...
You don't want him being
So I
mad at
remember when you guys
Yeah.
posted the first one, and I think I tuned in, and I was like, "Where's John?"
Yeah. So here's the thing. John's
Yeah.
a busy motherfucker, right?
Yes.
So when it started, John was really busy, and now he's on. And I don't know if you guys ever talked to John, but I could just be like, play, and he just drops knowledge bombs. He's a smart dude, a strong, smart dude, and the stuff he says is amazing. So when he's on, if you can go back and listen to the stuff on nutrition or some of the training stuff. He's trained with and knows some of the best people in the industry. So now he's on quite frequently. He's on almost every episode now, unless he's doing something off site.
Yeah. I've listened to him on numerous podcasts. And
Well, shit, y'all were on, right?
yeah, we came on episode 50.
Yeah. We were 50 years old. Now we're doing. They just did 60. I think next week we got Wendler. And then the week after we got So then the week after we got China Cho and Freddie. So
Oh yeah.
So that'd be cool. And China's signed, so it'd be fun to have her experience
She's
in the
with
NPFL.
San
Francisco Fire.
Yeah. Awesome. You've been talking to any of the teams here about signing?
So you know what? Nobody's really talked to me that much. I've been trying to talk to some people, but I don't know. One, I'm a master's athlete, and I like to think that the teams are trying to snatch up all the good young talent, because you guys have been here all 3 days, and there's some talent out there on the grid.
Oh yeah.
So, maybe they're saving us masters for last, or maybe I'm just not good enough.
I think masters are a great place for specialists.
Yeah.
And really, because you're required to have a master's athlete, and most master's athletes can't do the volume. That's the difference between a master's athlete and a younger athlete is the volume. As far as that's where you're maybe not as good, but where you can be better is on the skill based, because you have more experience.
Yeah.
And so an older athlete, and this is just my opinion from like, if I were out there picking, and I don't own a team or anything,
Not yet.
I would be, I don't think I'll ever own one, to be honest. But, maybe 5 years down the road, people are like, you said you weren't going to own a team.
Exactly.
I'll never say never.
Give me
right?
a break, everybody.
Yeah. I think Masters is a great place to find your specialists. And you were like one of the few guys that picked up 585. Was it you and like one other guy?
Yeah.
I think picked up 585 on a deadlift ladder. Not only did you pick up 585, but you had already picked up, I forget the weight increments, but you already picked up a shit ton of weight.
So in about 60 seconds, I started at 315. The increments went up by 30 pounds. So one of my buddies did the math. I think it ended up being like 4,500 pounds in 60 seconds. So it was
That's
it was
about
spicy.
as potent of a exercise stimulus as you can possibly.
Yeah.
What weight did you start with?
315,
315. What were the weight increment jumps?
30 pounds.
So for those of you at home, what he did was he picked up, he deadlifted 30-pound increments. So 315 and then 345. Is that right? Is that how am I doing the math good?
Yeah, 375,
all right.
405.
So all the way up as fast as he could until he got 585, and he did it under 60 seconds.
Yeah.
You basically sprint from
And the
bar to
last
bar.
one, I was like, I don't think Steve's gonna get this last one. I was watching,
Squeezed it out.
I was
man.
like, I didn't believe in you.
Oh, thanks, bro. Thanks, bro.
But you squeezed that last one, and you're like, But
Yeah.
it wasn't. It wasn't that I couldn't believe you couldn't pick up the weight. It was because the clock was ticking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if he's gonna be able to like squeeze that last rep out. But you did. You locked it out just in time.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
in time for the buzzer.
I had a great coach. Our coach for that one was Ian Berger, and he was with me the whole time. Then he runs down the sideline, and he was telling me, you got 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was like, you got 7 seconds. And I was like, oh man, all right, just grip it and
Just
rip
do
it.
it.
So I know I can pick up 585 any day of the week, but that volume, it's like you spoke about earlier. For us masters athletes, it's the volume is hard and the recovery is hard.
Yes.
So that's something we need to keep in mind. And I partly own a gym, but I have like a day job. I go and
You have
teach.
a real job.
I gotta produce
Not like us
papers.
entrepreneurs.
I gotta write papers, write grants, and deal with students coming to my office. And then I have a 3-year-old too. So not that I'm complaining. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right.
But these are things that maybe the 19, 20, 21-year-old athletes, they don't
have to worry about.
I train with a kid who's awesome, and he's going to be on the show sometime in the future. His name is Christian Davila because he's a straight baller. And he goes to the gym, works out, takes a 2.5-hour nap, eats 6 donuts, trains again, eats some more donuts, and I'm like,
That's a young man's game.
I'm like, bro, if only I was 21,
Yeah, the professional athlete his day or her day should look like eating, napping, training, and playing video games.
That's what the Bulgarians did, right?
Exactly, man.
The Bulgarians did that, right? Like the Bulgarian weightlifters back in the day, they didn't know if it was light or dark out. It was just coach said, wake up, lift, go eat, go sleep. I'll tell you when you need to wake up and lift again.
Oh,
And incidentally, the reason why most people shouldn't try that, even as sexy as it might seem, like if you have a job and a kid and a family and a life outside the gym, you shouldn't train like a fucking Bulgarian. Probably,
Yeah.
I would make a safe guess.
By the way, if you want to read, I don't know if you've seen it yet. There's this new book about Bolevsky, the Bulgarian weightlifter. It's called The White Prisoner. And you can go...
Is that where he talks about the dark days?
It covers Bolevsky's life, like from childhood
That's awesome.
until current, like now.
Nice.
And
Is it on Amazon and all that? Right
it's
now?
on yeah, it just came out. I'm gonna just toot my own horn. I was sent a copy early.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo, Michael.
And it's not very long, but I knocked it out in like 2 days, and I was just like, it was a page turner for me.
Nice.
And I was just like, this, and I normally don't read people's stories. I like a lot of
You don't read that much?
He's a mouth breather.
that's right. I do read quite a bit. I listen to audiobooks a lot. But
He's a big
That's not
reader.
That's not reading.
That fucking scientist said it, man. That's
but
true.
when I read, it's usually business books or
Yeah.
training books. It's
Yeah.
business and training books, and that's about it. And so for me to read somebody's like biography, like I'm kind of going out on a limb.
Yeah.
For me personally, it just doesn't usually interest me. But I was like, this is really fascinating because it's talking about Bulgarian weightlifting from a Bulgarian journalist who gathered all this information. I was like, holy shit, this is really amazing. The only thing I didn't like about the book is I don't think they're completely honest on the drug part.
You got to also do some drugs.
There was there were aspects.
What are you talking about?
There were parts in the
What
book where it's
drugs
like,
are you talking
What are these drugs you speak?
But he's talking about how like the weightlifters were like truly surprised when they got, because Bolevsky popped like a couple times, and he's like really, like the book kind of portrayed it where like Bolevsky was actually surprised. I'm like,
Well-
okay, even if you don't know what you're taking and the coach is just say, here, take this cup of pills, and we're gonna stick this needle in you, like.
He's
Because
medicine.
The coaches call it
Medicine.
they call it medicine, and they call it vitamins, and that's all they call it. They don't tell them what the name of the stuff is, so they can claim ignorance.
Yeah.
But the book was just a slightly on the naive side for me, personally. But it didn't completely leave it out. I mean, they called, said, hey, I was taking medicine the coach told me to take. It talks about Abajev and like the butcher and like it gets
you
into,
fucking need the medicine.
It gets into
The coach's nickname is the book.
It gets into the relationship between Boevsky and Abajev and just things that like I watch the weightlifting, I watch the Bulgarians lift, I hear stories about their training, but I don't get to hear like all these back end stories. So this book is actually pretty good.
That's cool, man.
And so I think people
out.
should check it out. It's called The White Prisoner. I think you can get it on Amazon now.
White Prisoner, cool. Give me something to read
Write
between
that down.
classes.
Say what? Well, what?
Something to read between classes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. So you teach neuroscience. Do you do any research or?
I do, actually.
Okay.
My research isn't even in exercise science. My exercise is in attractiveness. So I look at what happens in the brain when we see hot people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Are you familiar with Jeffrey Miller?
So Jeff's a good friend of mine, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jeff is funny, actually. So Jeff on Facebook, he always likes like my big deadlift posts. He's always like, here's our evolutionary psychologist, Steve, who like deadlifts more than you social psychologists. So yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
Very cool. I think we actually
talked about that.
talked about that in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I brought it up again. But it's good for everyone to see. I think he's coming out with a new book called Mating.
Mate.
Mate. His first book was called The Mating Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And writing it with Tucker Max.
Him and Tucker Max.
Yeah, that's gonna be balling.
And Tucker Max wrote, what was it? I hope they serve beer in hell.
Yeah.
You know, I just read about Tucker. I guess he was on the Tangentially Speaking podcast. He is one of 3 nonfiction authors to have 3 nonfiction books, I guess, in the best-selling list all at the same time. Like it's him and Malcolm Gladwell and somebody else.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
And also, you want to toot your own horn again about Tucker, saying your story was the best story I'd ever heard.
I told Tucker Max's story at a party. Somehow we got into like my most fucked up story type of thing. And I was like, all right, I'll tell the most fucked up story I've got. From back when I was in the Navy, and I told this story, and he was like, holy shit, that's the most fucked up story I've ever heard. And this comes from a guy who made a living telling fucked up stories.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't tell the story anymore because I don't like to sensationalize that type of behavior.
Right.
And that's why I kind of just, I'm trying to make the world a better place at this point. I wasn't always that way. So,
of course, you know what's going to happen now. Everybody's going to want to hear the story.
Yeah.
You know what? If you want to hear the story, I plan on having storytelling time on my personal podcast, Blitzopia. So just look up Blitzopia, and I have a lot. Actually, half the podcast there are about personal development.
Nice.
So I'm gonna mix in some like fucked up stories from when I was in the Navy or something like that.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll actually talk about Steve.
All right, welcome back to Technique Wad. I'm Doug Larson with the Barbell Shrugged podcast. This is video number 7 on the squat series. I'm gonna give you 3 fun variations to help you get stronger on your squats. All right, today I'm gonna give you a beginner, intermediate, and advanced variation that you can use on your squats. Level 1 is gonna be a tempo squat. Level 2 for the intermediates is gonna be a pause squat. And then level 3 for the advanced athletes is gonna be a 1 1/4 squat. So that doesn't mean that only beginners should do the tempo squats, only intermediate athletes should do the pause squat, and only advanced people are allowed to do the 1 1/4 squat, but that's how you can kind of think of them. The tempo squats look like this. I'm gonna face out just for this video. So tempo squat basically means that on the way down, say I'm front squatting, on the way down maybe I have a count of 4, and so I'd be here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I could come up as fast as I want. A pause squat would be similar, except I would go down under control, but however fast I needed to. And then at the bottom, I would hold it for maybe a count of 4, maybe a count of 7, whatever you decide to do, and then come up from there. And then the 1 1/4 squat, I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna come halfway up, and then I'm gonna come all the way up. So I'm doing a full depth, and then I'm gonna come up just a little bit, and then I'm gonna train that bounce again on the way up, okay? The tempo squat I like for new people. The reason I like it is because on the way down, new people tend to get out of position, and their knees will be wobbling in and out, they'll drop their elbows and whatnot. And so it lets them slow down, and it lets them think, butt back a tiny bit, ribs down, elbows high, knees out, heels on the deck. It lets them think on the way down, and then on the way up, they're supposed to come up the exact same way that they went down. So it gives them time to think where they're not going so fast that they're they're just kind of falling all over the place and their knees are in and out. They look terrible. So I like that for new people for that reason. For the intermediate athletes, I really like the pause squat. As I said, it lets them go down however fast they want to, but then I like how you pause in the bottom position and you have to have that kind of that raw strength, especially if this is heavy. If you're doing like a 1 rep max pause squat, I'm waiting, I'm resting, I'm comfortable in that bottom position. Maybe I'm sinking lower and lower and lower, and then I have to use that raw strength to kind of blast out of the hole and recover. That way, if I catch a heavy clean as an example, and then I land in the bottom in a funny position, or maybe I'm even a little bit out of position and I can't ride the bounce, I'm used to having to kind of grind out of the hole, out of the very bottom of the squat, because I've been doing it in training on my heavy pause squats, which might be heavier than my heaviest clean. So I'm used to grinding out of the hole with heavy weight. That way I get in competition. Maybe I'm trying to hit that next PR. I land a little bit out of position. No big deal. I'm strong in that position and I can grind out of the hole because I've been doing my pause squats. Okay. Then finally, again, the advanced method that I was talking about today is a 1 1/4 squat. Again, put your feet wherever you would catch a clean, elbows high, and go down. And I can kind of get used to using the bounce. Okay, and you obviously wouldn't do that fast with heavy weight. Go down under control. Maybe you go here, do kind of a light bounce and then maybe a fast bounce, and get used to, and just get used to having that weight on your shoulders and landing in the hole in a comfortable position where you can bounce and not have the weight slide forward, not drop your elbows, not have your toes come off the ground, not let your knees wobble. You're getting used to riding the bounce on both cleans and snatches. You can do all this stuff overhead if you want to. You can do it in a back squat position. I did all demos in a front squat position just because it's easy to talk. But you can use all these same techniques for any and all variations of squatting. So I like for advanced people using that 1 1/4 squat. It trains you more in that bottom position and it lets you learn how to ride that bounce correctly. That way you can pull extra heavy weight, catch it in the clean, ride that bounce and cruise through your sticking point. That way you can have as much energy as possible for when you go into your jerk. So those are 3 easy methods that you can use to kind of mix up your squat routine, where especially with beginners, the tempo squat makes them intentionally go a little bit lighter, and the 1 1/4 squat actually can help advanced athletes actually even go a little bit heavier sometimes, because you're letting them get good at bouncing out of the hole for a 1 rep max front squat or what have you. So go ahead and try out those 3 techniques. If you want more squatting tips, you can always go check out the rest of the squat series. This is video number 7 in that series. So if you want to check out videos 1 through 6, you can go to barbellshrugged.com, click on the episodes tab at the top of the page, and click on Technique Wad. All the videos are in the library. We'll see you another day.
And we're back with the amazing Steve Platek. Masters athlete, huge deadlifter. Is there anything else you're really good at in CrossFit? Like, or is the deadlift like, are you a one-trick pony?
I mean, I can do all the movements, right? So like, I mean, my list of weaknesses is shorter. So my snatch isn't very good, but I've got like a wingspan of like an orangutan.
Right.
And that's why you pull the house.
That's why I pull the house. And I mean, I can do all the muscle ups and all that stuff. Out here on the grid at MPFL, basically, like I wanted to win. I hate losing. Like there's probably nothing I hate more than losing. So I told the coaches right up, like, look, I can go shoulder overhead. I can do muscle ups. I can climb the rope. But these guys are going to go up faster than me. So, like, pull shit off the floor. I'm going to be faster than them. Let's win. And so we did pretty well. But, yeah, so I'm good at deadlifting. I can clean a little bit. And I'm pretty fast on my feet for an old fella.
What are you bad at? Or are you
I'm really bad at snatching. That's my weakness.
That's your big weakness?
I mean, really what is thoracic spine mobility. So, like, getting down low, overhead. For a while, I was split snatching. When I was working up to the American Masters, I was split snatching. I split snatched like 102.
Nice.
Yeah, so it wasn't so bad. And just recently had my shoulders kind of worked out. I've been working full snatches again and working my way back up. But it's not a pretty movement for me. It's not a pretty
that's to be
movement
expected. We had a discussion with Sam Dancer, right, where we were discussing what makes weightlifting ability versus deadlifting ability and how you try to switch between them or train them at the same time, how they don't really jive at all.
No.
I'm not surprised at all that you pull a house but your history and maybe is it powerlifting and sort of your traditional sports?
No,
you played any football or anything?
No, I played college ice hockey at Rutgers.
Yeah, but still, you might have been a little heavy on leaning forward and being rounded.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
I'm a desk jockey.
I was going to say,
desk
he's a
jockey.
researcher.
Yeah,
It's not about the sports you played. It's about that sitting
Yeah.
at the desk.
Yeah.
So it's
That's the
hard.
hardest
It's
thing.
hard to expect to snatch the house.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
long arms in that posture. It just doesn't
Yep.
quite work. I was going to ask you before. You had that huge deadlift, and you mentioned the coach running beside you, giving you cues, pushing you to how much time. Do you think you could have done that without that coach there barking at you? I think the coaches barking on the sidelines, one of those cool factors playing into this competition.
Well, and it's not even barking. I mean, Ian Berger from New York Rhinos, he wasn't barking at me like, go. He was actually being like what I couldn't be between my ears, which was calming down my sympathetic nervous system, where I'd be amped up, like, gotta get there. He was like, chill. Like, get to the bar, breathe, chill. Con Porter, dude from Australia, who probably gonna get picked up because he's a baller, was at the end of the finish line like, pick it up! And so like I had like both things coming at me. So like Con was getting me stoked and like psyched to pick it up, and he was like, get set, like don't do anything stupid, don't hurt him. He was really cool about like, this is a tryout. Don't hurt yourself, because then it doesn't matter if you try out and like you're not gonna make it. So it was like a weird balance between the team saying like, Steve, we know you can do it, like rock it, pick up the house, and Ian being the smart coach and like realizing, looking at the clock and doing all that stuff that as an athlete you don't want to think about.
Yeah.
So it was really an amazing experience.
So you've got this experience being a researcher. You obviously know a thing or two about the nervous system. You read a few articles here and there. And you have this experience where you've trained for a long time. You have a passion for it. I imagine there's some convergence and crossover. Have you had any, let's say, really unique insights you've got having this knowledge base and this experience, that anything you can share, the hot tips of any nervous system hacks or common sense things you've learned in the gym that you've really sort of drawn out of your experience? Like what can we learn from your smart ass when it comes to lifting?
Nothing. No.
Nothing.
So I mean, the biggest thing in psychology or neuroscience, there's this thing called the Yerkes-Dodson law, and you can Google it. It's like one of the most famous things in psychology. And basically the effect is this, and you know it. It's what you call like the 2-beer effect, right? So when I was in England, I played darts, and I'm terrible at darts. Give me 3 beers, I'm a little bit better. Give me 6 beers, and you better move out of the way because you're going to get stabbed, right?
Hey, I do that with bowling.
The same thing. So it's an inverted U-shaped function, right? So when there's low arousal, you're poor. When you're high arousal, you're poor. Right in the middle. And what I like to tell my athletes is you need to learn where that middle is. Because for someone like me, it might happen fast. I might need just a little arousal. But for somebody else, they might need like 7 cups of coffee and like smacks in the face and smelling salts to jack up to that point.
Yeah.
And so that's what I call the sort of intersection of the sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight system, right? Like if a cougar jumped out of the closet, we could fight or flight, right? I mean, we would all fight because we're ballers, right?
I'll trip Mike and then I'll run.
I would jump over the balcony here.
Yeah, so the key about that is all you got to do is be faster than the slowest guy, right?
Yeah.
And then, so the intersection between the sympathetic nervous system, this fight or flight, and the central nervous system, which is the way we think about it. So, and the central nervous system can influence the sympathetic nervous system, the arousal, right? So think about when you're thinking about asking a girl out or something, right? And I know you're married, Mike,
oh geez,
but, right? So like if you overthink it, what happens is you walk up and you bumble the shit out of it, right?
That's why it's so much easier to pick up chicks when you're married.
No comments from.
So
My wife is in the room somewhere.
or after a couple beers, right? After a couple beers. So being married is like having a couple beers, and
I wish.
It's more expensive than that, though. Way more expensive than that.
More expensive. Yeah. So hey, try and have ex-wives, okay? So talk about pricey. So like that's where I think like the athlete and the best athletes in the world, I think, can moderate that intersection between overthinking and calming themselves down, right? And it might be as simple as just a deep breath into the tummy. It might be as like you need to sit down and chill, or like I was talking about earlier, having a coach saying like, yeah, there's a time limit. You're good, right? And just getting that in the central nervous system can actually influence that fight or flight system to be like, it's the same thing like you're all young men at one point, right? And you're getting in a fight, right? And that point when the fight changes from where you're getting your ass kicked to where you're doing the ass kicking, all of a sudden it's like, I could destroy this person, because now you're no longer in your head. But when you're on your back and your ass kicked, all you're thinking about is, fucking getting my ass kicked.
You're getting tunnel vision.
Yeah, and your arousal's going through the roof. You can't even like think about throwing a fist. You can't integrate motor programs because your sympathetic nervous system is just saying like you need to just survive. But when you flip over and you're on top, all of a sudden it's like you're out of your mind. Now everything is automatic. It's like you're in the zone.
Now all the training hours kick in, and now you just execute the plan.
Yeah, and so I think that's what's happening out here actually in the NPFL grid is like you're seeing a lot of athletes that are good at things, and under pressure they're doing them real fast. But in the last match, the LA Reign and the Philly Founders, you saw some faults, right? Because these athletes are CrossFit athletes, and they're used to like pacing, like knowing where they're at. Now it's a team. They've
also not as used to as many rules.
And as many standards and time caps that are so short and people relying on them, right? Like here's the big thing. Like, yeah, you have a fan base, but once you add a team, it's like you're fighting for a family. And like the past couple of days, I'll tell you what, I was on 3 separate teams across 3 days with 9 other, I didn't have any of the same athletes. And within a matter of minutes, you become just connected with those athletes.
Yeah.
You want to bleed with them, sweat with them. You want to see them succeed. When they win, you want to pick them up and like cheer for them. So those people in your corner, it's like your family in your corner, and you just want to do the best you can. So that pressure now amps up that sympathetic nervous system. You got to get out from between the ears, you know?
Wow. Yeah, and another thing is, from what I understand about arousal levels, is some sports require optimal arousal is higher, where maybe less motor control is necessary. So powerlifting, you want you're snorting torque, and then in golf, everyone shut the hell up. I'm trying to swing a club here.
Yeah.
So
But has anybody tried nose torque in death metal and golf? I mean, we do have the data that shows it doesn't actually work.
Didn't they make a movie about that?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can even bring it back to weightlifting. Difference between powerlifting and Olympic lifting.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, Olympic. If you go to a powerlifting meet, they got walking music, right? Like you're like rocking AC/DC or like Danzig.
Yeah.
Better rock Danzig. And
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Mother. Oh.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah. But at a weightlifting meet, it's like yeah, and then quiet, right? Because it's more. It takes a little more technique.
Unless you're John North. Unless you're John North, you're a maniac. You scream and yell. It seems to work for him. His curve is way skewed.
Way skewed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things skewed about John North. I've never met John North. Man, is he entertaining? And he's a strong dude and a good lifter, man. I'd love to meet him. But listen, I'm a psychologist. I like to meet.
He's a good example. He's a good example.
He's a man to be studied. You can say it.
John,
all right.
Cool.
Yeah. So John's not raw.
You're not gonna offend him.
John's not raw, brutal, strong guy. He's not necessarily a genetically blessed guy, although he's athletic as hell.
Yeah.
But I think what he benefits from, another angle that you might be able to speak to, is that I think he is passionate, and he harnesses that emotion, and he believes 100% that if I just give myself to this totally, I can make magical shit happen. And for him, it is. Even though maybe by some of the numbers, it doesn't make sense. Like he doesn't squat a house, but he can lift weights with people who are much stronger. So some emotional component that's really fueling his effort.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And so like that kind of passion we see a couple athletes like that in every sport. And I call it, what I like to refer to it as, and this isn't really scientific, is like prisoner of war effect, right? Like you're captured by the enemy, they feed you like a grain of rice for 9 months. Somehow you don't die because you're inside your head, I must survive, right? Or like the soldier who gets shot should be dead, but his guys carrying him out of the jungle are like, dude, you're fine. Like our brain is so magnificent that it can control our physiology. I think you're right about John. John's got that passion where he's probably not the raw brute strength technical guy, but man, he wants it and he wills himself to do it. And that's another thing psychologically hard to train an athlete to do. Recently we have a guy who just broke an American record in the snatch and won the youth nationals. As a 13-year-old, he snatched 76 and got called on a press-out clean and jerk in 97. He's 13, he's 6'1".
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like I told his dad, I was like, you better bring a birth certificate. He's taller than I am, right? And but when he started with us, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm tired. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like, and this is too hard. And over the year we've been training him, all of a sudden you see that switch. All of a sudden now he's hit some lists. He knows he can do it. He feels he can do it. Even when he misses, he's like, I know I can hit that shit. And I mean, he's 13. He probably doesn't talk like that, at least not in front of his dad. And so it's amazing. Our ability to will ourselves to do things. You heard the old motto, mind over matter, but there's some truth in that. The reason that that saying sticks around, it's because there's truth in it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you're right about John. That passion, that desire, that drive, he wants to be the best. And, you know, there's that old cliche where, like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I think he thinks he can, and damn, he's doing good.
I wonder one day if we'll ever have an actual good explanation for what the fuck is going on, like a placebo effect, you know, a situation where the brain is somehow enforcing some sort of action based on what is interpreting to be true.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we think we got this drug, or we think this program is the tits. So let's go ahead and make ourselves really fucking strong. There's some sort of strange action going on between what happens in your muscle and the hormonal cascades and what your brain is perceiving.
Yeah,
it's wild. It's science fiction.
Been reading a little bit about like genetic expression. And man, you start thinking about like how and why genes express. You're like, what the hell? Like I'm about to do an experiment here in the next couple of weeks where I'm going to do a fast,
self-experiment,
just to see another experiment, cool. on my body where I'm going to do a fast and see if I can measure some type of genetic expression of survival, you know, an upregulation of certain hormones after the fact. So, these are some things that I'm interested in.
This
now.
Sounds expensive, man. Who's gonna do the upregulation study?
It's gonna be me.
Like who's gonna? Is there a place down there you can take your blood? And
I fund my own studies with blood work, and then sometimes I just analyze it myself. Sometimes I ask for someone to look at it. It depends on what we're measuring, because some things I just don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
Right.
Some things like I know. Like I have a theory about what might happen, and so I'm going to be looking at very specific things. But just because it may be true for me, but it doesn't mean it's true for somebody else.
It's true, and like I like what you're doing, the self-experimentation. I think that's so important for athletes to do, even with their training. Like I know certain training programs for me do not work. I'm 40. The volume, the intensity, what have you, even the movements, like going overhead every single day is not good for these old desk jockey shoulders.
It's a great program. It works for lots of people. It's not about which one's better. It's just that for you, it's not the right thing.
It's not the right thing. And so the same thing goes with this genetic expression thing. Like one of the first things I have to teach my students when I teach genetics is, you know, you ask them what are genes, and they're like, oh, it's your DNA. Okay, but what do they do? Dumbfounded faces. We used to think they were like the building blocks, which breaks my heart. But genes are going on and off all the time. They're not. They're like light switches, or a better analogy would be they're like a rheostat, like dimmer, right? Dimmer, because you eat certain things, you upregulate a gene. You eat different things, you downregulate a gene. But we've got thousands of these genes that are doing things together, working. So it's a factorial design. If you guys know what that means, like it's not just 30,000 genes working, but it's 30,000 times 29,000 times 28. I mean, it's like millions of combinations.
Endlessly complex. And isn't also like your dad ate this thing or had a traumatic event, therefore you have a different expression of your genes.
You could have so the thing is, the epigenetics is you could have inherited not only the actual gene for it, but the genetic propensity for the expression of something. This is what we see in moms, right?
Oh, geez.
So like
getting complicated quick.
So, no, I mean it's really here's how it works simply. So mom's got a little fetus in her, right? And mom eats carrots, right? The baby comes out preferring carrots. Why? Because what mom eats is a good predictor for what's happening in the environment. Baby comes out liking chocolate and not carrots. Guess what happens to the baby? Fucking dies. So you inherit a propensity for expression of genes that are going to be beneficial to the previous generation for your survival and reproductive success. I mean, when all this shit genetics comes down to, it's all about sex, which is why I like it.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I've seen in regard to, like, one of the stories I've heard in regard of, like, gene expression is a woman is pregnant with a baby, and she is in a harsh environment. Lots of stress. Things are going on that are out of control. A lot of cortisol all the time, and that's going to cause some genes to express with the infant. That's going to it's going to develop certain parts of the brain more than others, and that child is probably going to grow up to be a little more aggressive. It's going to be much more able to adapt to a situation where it's harsher. Probably going to get more fights growing up, might not do so well in college, so may not be able to
I'm trying to think, how many
hold a
people do I know
relationship.
who have this problem?
You know what I mean? And then the baby that was born and or that was in the mother's womb, and there was a very loving situation going on. The woman was naturally just good at staying calm and keeping the cortisol low and had good habits. That baby's going to come out and be a little more even keel, probably get along with our modern society a little bit better. You throw them in in a starvation type scenario, they may not do so well.
Yeah.
They may not end up being the best soldier in the world.
Right.
But it just kind of depends on what happens at that point. And sometimes I get to thinking, I'm like, oh man, when we have kids one day, I gotta really
beat her up.
What kind of baby do we want to make?
Yeah.
But I think maybe small doses of different things at different points could be the answer. There is let's have some intense doses of stress, exercise, followed by nice healthy recovery.
Absolutely.
Probably the things that are best for most of us.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying too, is like the mom's uterus is a predictor for the environment, and so evolution works in two ways. It either adapts the offspring or it aborts it. So under those harsh stressful environments of mom, the two options are, I better make this baby as biologically fit as possible so it can withstand the harsh environments that mom is telling me is out there, or I abort it because I can't do that. The kid, physiologically, we can't make this critter survivable.
Right.
So let's get rid of it and we'll try again. It's that bad. Yeah. It's not worth it. And so those are, it's like a two-choice alternative for evolution. But oftentimes, it's because we're so hypercaloric, humans can actually circumvent that evolutionary pressure, which is really an interesting thing that we don't see.
Has profound effects for what does not get selected against.
Absolutely, it makes humans. It's part of what makes humans a little different is that culture relative to other animals. In which cases, abortion is much more common than adaptation to the stressor.
So it's more common to lose a baby than it is.
Yeah, you got a pregnant rat and you shock it all day long.
It's still gonna pump out a baby.
No. The rat will probably abort because it's overstressed if you stress it enough. Because the thing about birthing is that it decreases longevity in females. So the more babies you have, the shorter lifespan you have. So when women got it bad. So
poor ladies.
Yeah. So biology needs to temper that relationship in a way that's adaptive for both the female and the production of offspring. There's no sense in bringing a baby into the world if it's just going to die, right? Because then you've actually ticked off maybe like a unit of longevity and produced no genetic offspring in the next generation. Evolution is pretty smart.
Wow.
This week on Barbell Shrugged, we talk about abortion.
He's not talking about intentional abortion.
We got to do asterisks here. So we're talking about the pluses and minuses.
We would call it like a miscarriage.
The actual biological cost of if things aren't working out, what would happen if this baby comes into the world?
The scientist in him is using terminology that's not common to the layperson. He's talking about miscarriage. All right.
Yeah.
Not the we're going to stay away from the ethical consideration.
Yeah, right.
We're going to get hate mail.
Interesting comments.
Send it to me. Send it to him.
It was all him.
Yeah. We swear.
If you didn't like this episode, all Steve's fault.
You can follow me at Instagram.
Go F yourself at gmail.com.
There you go.
Exactly.
Really though, where can we find you? Should we follow you anywhere?
I don't really have anything going on. I got the Power Athlete podcast, Power Athlete Radio podcast, and I do some stuff on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. But
so what's your Instagram handle?
Instagram handle is SPLATEK 16. So Platek 16.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for people to find.
We'll promote it through our Twitter.
I'll put a link to you. Man.
Cool.
Excellent. All right, guys. Don't forget, go to barbellshrug.com, sign up for the newsletter, and we will send you super cool emails.
Cheers.
Peace.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
To learn more about how you can support the show, go to barbellshrug.com and sign up for the newsletter.